So if I could get everyone to just tell me a little bit about themselves, go through like what your job is, all that sort of stuff, like outside of being a councillor.
I'm Neil Hindle, I'm a local businessman. I live in Woodhouses village in Failsworth with my wife Susan. We've run our own fire alarm company for the last 17 years and I'm very passionate about where I live. Failsworth itself has become in decline over the last few years. And I feel as though that I can do something about it.
I'm Mark Wilkinson, I'm 63, I'm married, I live on the west side of Failsworth. Basically, I was a police officer for 32 years. I retired in 2006 as a detective sergeant. I then went into working for originally the Home Office and the Ministry of Justice concerning rehabilitation of offenders. So dealing with the first and second time offenders, trying to catch them early doors to prevent them from reoffending.
I'm Brian Hobin. I am at present the only independent councillor in Failsworth. I've been a councillor now for 2 years. Aside from being a councillor, I've wife and kids at home and I'm a bus driver, so I'm a working councillor.
What initially sparked all of your interests to become councillors?
I realised what could be achieved, if we were lucky enough to get another one or two independent councillors in the east and in the west. And, wanted to get involved to see if we could, enhance the town we live in.
If we can get a further 2 councillors to run alongside Brian, we'll have more of an opportunity to achieve greater investment and raise the profile of our town.
Why did I become a councillor? Mine was a chance meeting in the local greengrocers with Kath Wilkinson, who runs the local forum. Also, when Kath was mentioning how she'd not got anywhere with councillors and she was getting fed up of the things that were going on in Failsworth. And Matthew, the greengrocer, said, well, there's a chap you want to speak to, and pointed at me. From that meeting, I had 2 or 3 other meetings with Kath and a couple of other people, and decided to throw my hat in the ring and become a councillor. I think originally just to shake things up and see if we could get things done. And I think we was all surprised by the success.
How have you helped in your local area before deciding to run as a councillor?
As a team, we created the Failsworth Food Bank during the pandemic. That was, I think it was around 22 weeks, where we was providing food parcels up to maybe 200, 250 food parcels a week for families that were obviously less fortunate than us, couldn't get out of their homes. I myself volunteered at the Oldham Food Bank 2 days a week. We used their vehicles to collect food from Asda, Tesco's and Aldi, and just take it to the food hub there in Oldham where it was distributed. I donated a defib to Higher Failsworth School. I sponsor a couple of the local girls football teams in and around Failsworth. And I've also been involved in marshalling the local Christmas light switch on. Me and Mark were marshals for the Remembrance Day parade. Quite a few things getting involved. Marshalling the bonfire, because I'm in the fire industry, so I was like the fire officer for the bonfire.
My wife and I started a forum called Failsworth Matters, and at this moment in time there's 6,700 members on that. What we found is that the community was really coming together, and anybody who specifically needed anything or there was a demand for anything, the community would come together and assist that person. So it sort of became a natural progression then to carry on. More recently, again, as a result of a question that was put on the Facebook page, I've started a disability equipment loan scheme. We found that a lot of disability equipment, i.e. wheelchairs, Zimmer frames, strollers, were being literally thrown away because the hospitals wouldn't take them back, and yet there was other people who was requiring those facilities. So I took it upon myself. I discussed it with our team, and I just thought it would be a good thing to do. So now anybody who needs a wheelchair or crutches or whatever the disability equipment it is that they require, they will contact me. I'll deliver it to them. They'll use it for however long they want, and then we'll retrieve it back at a later stage. But that has been particularly a good service, you know, because there's some people who need the equipment but can't afford to hire it or buy it. We put an old age pensioners Christmas party on from the Failsworth Independent Party, and I've never known Failsworth as close as it is now. And the time's right for this party because, let's be honest, it's a community party.
I think the main catalyst for us all, I think, was the establishment of the forum. It kind of gelled together the community. It was kind of, there were community actions prior to that, but I think Failsworth Matters gave the community a focus to channel things through. And I think that helped. It helped to manage some situations, and it also helped for people to come forward and get involved more. So I think that's where everything that I've done and everything that we aim to achieve, that's got to be the catalytic moment, that establishment. And from there, every aspect of community and every aspect of helping in the community now comes really from that.
I'm going to move on to how things are going in the pandemic at the minute. So how is the campaign going?
We've been busy for the last 6 months, really, trying to judge the weather with the election, because of course after last year's cancellation nobody was sure that this year would go ahead, really. But as soon as we got the word that this would go ahead, then it was all hands on deck. I don't think there's anybody in Failsworth that can fail to see what we're trying to achieve or fail to see the spirit that we've got and the fight that we've got. It's been hard graft. I know that Mark and Neil and a couple of the other volunteers, a couple of the other members of the team have been hard at it for the last few weeks, adorning Failsworth with our election material, and it's looking good. We as we reach these final few weeks now, we've got plans in place for other things to highlight not just what we've done in the past, but what we intend to do in the future.
There's a massive sense of excitement out there.
Yeah.
It's really exciting times. Me and Mark have been out for the last week or so installing Failsworth Independent Party boards in people's gardens. They're like for sale signs, pretty much. The number of engagements, people coming to have a chat with us, saying how excited they are for us, and they really want us to support us. We've planned to so every single person within the Failsworth Borough or the Failsworth town will have a leaflet, and no one will be forgotten. If you want to come out and have a chat and engage with us, we're more than happy to do that.
There's 100 placards gone up throughout Failsworth East and Failsworth West. We have got 6 huge banners adorned throughout Failsworth. There is also car magnets as well. So we've gone the full hog. We've had 40 years of Labour, and I genuinely believe that the time's right now to come to the Independence Party, come to the Community Party and join us, because I think it's going to be good.
It's kind of woken people up to local politics, because you thought the party that was in power would always get in power because people had always voted for that party. And now we've come along and kind of thrown a big pebble in the water and caused this ripple, which is just growing and growing. And I do think people are losing their allegiance to political parties. And as we're not a political party, as we're a community party, people seem to want that rather than the ideological side of a political party.
What have you done over the past year or so to help local businesses and local people through the pandemic?
It's very difficult, obviously, because a lot of the businesses have been closed. What we have tried to do, those businesses that are open, is to use our local businesses to try and help and support them. That is one of our policies for the future, is to help the local businesses. I don't like seeing trade coming into Failsworth that has been contracted out of the area. I want people within Failsworth to take the opportunity of gaining that work.
We have spoken to a lot of local businesses and just generally pointing them in the right direction, to obtain all the help that was available to them.
And I think what we have done has been appreciated by the people that we've dealt with. Not just the businesses, but the local residents as well, because we helped families and vulnerable people as well as businesses. But I think the main thing about it for us all is that all the way through the pandemic, we've been, which we intend to carry on because this is part of what we do, but we've been visible, we've been out there, we've been available to help whenever we've needed to be. And just being that shoulder or that helping hand for both family households and businesses is where we've wanted to be and what we've done. And as Mark says, our intention is to build the businesses. And I know there's some very tired cliches going around at the moment with building things back better after the pandemic. But I think our aim is to help local businesses, to support local businesses. And we will at some point showcase all the local businesses so that people within the area know all the little gem businesses that we've got and where they can go to.
And I think we owe it them, because a lot of the businesses in Failsworth have supported this community throughout the pandemic. Yeah. I look at local greengrocers, the local shops, different people who have been into the food bank and donated vast amount of food, goods, baby milk, clothing, you name it. So they stepped up, and it's time for us to step up for them, and we will. We won't forget that.
So what have you got planned for after the election if you are elected?
After the party that we have on election night?
From my point of view is just to try and, make sure our pot of money is invested back into our area. Again, promoting the local businesses, making sure they get the support they need, and working with and for the community. There's a big pot of money there that doesn't come anywhere near Failsworth. Oldham, never mind Failsworth, that's spent out of the borough. And we need to try and bring that back in-house, spend it where it can be most used.
It's not just about the investment that we want. One of the other major things for after May the 6th, when hopefully these three gentlemen on the screen are all councillors, it's to build on the community spirit that's built up again over the last 18 months. We can spearhead that too and be the community leaders to make sure that what we can invest in the area we do, and that we don't leave anybody behind. We look after as many people as we can.
What do you think is your biggest obstacle to winning a seat in this election?
The biggest obstacle is actually getting the people out to vote. Historically, there's a lot of people that don't vote, and I think when Brian won, was there like a 50 or a 60% turnout, Brian, something like that?
But it was still a small turnout. There was still more people that didn't actually vote than did.
We don't want the independent supporters to become complacent. We don't want them coming out onto the street and having dialogue with us and cup to tea and saying, yeah, you're doing a great job of supporting you, if you're not going to go and put that tick in the box on the day. This
particular area has been dominated by Labour for 40 years. One of the biggest obstacles is convincing them that there's an alternative to Labour. You will get the die-hard supporters that, irrespective of who you put that red rosette on, they will vote for them. And we've got to try and change that mindset. It won't be easy with some, but I think we've gone a long way in convincing a few. And Neil and Brian will back me up here. I know of die-hard Labour supporters that are changing now to the Independent Party, for the simple reason is they're realising that local politics is a lot different than national politics, and local is about your town, your area, your people.
The turnout figures for Failsworth are below national average and below Oldham average. So do you think that turnout's going to have a big impact this time, or do you think that turnout's going to be a lot higher this time?
It's imperative we get as many people as possible to get out to vote. We as a party have looked statistically at areas of Failsworth that are not voting or haven't voted in the past, and we've concentrated on those particular areas.
As I've said before, we've kind of woken some of the area up to it, I hope. And I hope that some people that haven't traditionally voted will now feel as though they've got a team of people that will look after their interests. Won't leave them behind if there's anything, if there is any of the cake left, they won't be left behind.
How have you found your experience as being a councillor for the last, 3 years now?
2 years. 2 years it'll be. So how have found it? Overwhelming, very humbling, because even though I've lived in this area since I was 8 years old, which is 40 something years, 43 years. It's only through being, and I think I know from my previous jobs and from the quite big family that I'm in, I know quite a lot of people in Failsworth, but until I became a councillor, I wasn't aware really of other people in Failsworth and what was going on with other people and how other people couldn't get the breaks that they wanted. You know, they didn't know where to turn. There was a hell of a lot of people, and I think there still is, that don't really know who the councillors are. I've not been able to hide away for the last 2 years because of the jobs that I've done and because of the people that I know. And because of that, people from, because I'm councillor for Failsworth East, I have people from Failsworth West contacting me to help because they either don't know who the councillors are or it's very hard to get all of the other councillors. So that's been overwhelming. The humbling bit has been meeting people and people joining with me in this road that we've now set up moving forward. It's been frustrating in other ways in working as a kind of lone wolf at council, as a kind of one-man band where you get very little assistance. In fact, you get quite a lot of resistance. On the evening that I won, on the count night when I won, one of the members of the local party said to me, well, you won't get anything done. So I said, what do you mean I won't get anything done? I'm going to, I'll do whatever you can. He said, no, we won't let you. So that's a frustrating thing. Whilst it's been great on the ground level with the people in my area, it's been very frustrating at council with hitting. People like to throw hurdles in your way and try and stop you doing things, because obviously if I get something done when I've only been a councillor for a year and they've been councillors for years and never managed to do it, it embarrasses them, doesn't it? The extra force of having like-minded people with me, we'll get even more done. We can do so much, I think, once we get across that line with these two gentlemen that we're talking to tonight.
What is one thing people in the community don't know that you do as a councillor?
I think people won't understand what goes on in the background, and the rest of our team will have seen the paperwork that is required as a councillor. When you're a sole member of the council, you don't get any help with researchers, or you don't get any help with assistance like that, and this big heavy book lands on your desk and you're expected to at least read through it and find anything that you disagree with that you want to raise at council. I think that's what people would be surprised at.
What sets you apart from the previous councillors we've had? What are you going to do different? Why should we vote for you?
What we're going to do differently is we're going to listen. We're going to meet. We're going to have us things on a regular basis. We're going to meet the general public, who are going to be the people who hopefully put us in the position that we're going to be in, and have these meetings, and they'll tell us what their problems are, what we can help, what we want to help with, and just moving forward, more of that all the time. Just keep engaging with the people that potentially are going to vote us in, and don't say you're going to do something if you're not going to do it.
I think it's all about making yourself visible, being available, being open, being transparent. Yeah, it's making yourself available and being able to listen to people and try and put action into the words. That's what it's all about for me.
There's an aspect of us three moving forward, and it's been mentioned through this interview in its community. And what we will do differently is, and Mark especially can back me up on this, previous councillor has actually said, I don't do community before. And we're the opposite. We do community.
Do you actually put people's interests first, or are you all about the money?
That's really funny, that, all about the money. What money's that, Ryan? We don't know.
I'm still waiting to find that pot of gold. I've not found it yet.
It's because we care, and because we want, we want to bring the community together. We want to have the best town for these people. It's certainly not for the money.
No.
My question is, how are you going to step forward in the future with coronavirus?
I've been furloughed since last March. I've just been given a start back date now from the 1st of May. I think May, June, things will start to get somewhat back to normal. And I think I've said it previously, I think that it's the time that we all come together and all help each other out the best way possible. If it means going sitting outside at the pub, well, let's do it. even if it's snowing.
With running my own company sort of thing, we're classed as key workers, so it's not really affected us. So us moving forward, possibly, particularly as the company won't change. However, obviously interacting with the Failsworth community, it will be great as lockdown eases. We might see them in a beer garden, or just walking the street. It's just be nice to sit there and have a couple of beers with somebody on it, and talk about the election and how we blew Labour out the water and what do you want us to do next for you people in Failsworth. That would be good.
This is our opportunity now to help the businesses and the people of Failsworth to grab Failsworth literally by the scruff of the neck and say, right, let's get back to work, let's get back to business, let's support them businesses. And while we're doing that, as your elected councillors, let's make sure that we've got everything in place and we've got every avenue chased to help you to achieve, to get back on your feet. Let's try and aim for people to get back to better than they were before. Let's encourage that.